We're going to do this boat. Okay, so you can do your boat any colour. It's just that red shows up nicely on my Winsor & Newton Payne's Grey. If you haven't got Winsor & Newton Payne's Grey, please use indigo, because everybody else's Payne's Grey seems to be just grey and not bluey grey. I'm going to wet the paper. I'm going to not go over the red bits of the boat and the shadow. So I'm going to go all the way underneath. I'm not going to go over the buoys either. So it's just a all round, apart from the red of the boat, over the seagulls because they don't mind. We've got wax on that rolled up sail, so that's fine. So really, it's almost everywhere. Just make sure you've got a nice sheen on it. If you can't see it, pick it up and turn it towards the light, like that. You can see my sheen shining. So I never paint at the edge of my painting. I like my white space, but that's up to you. That's a personal preference. Okay, so I've got nice damp paper. I'm going to use some Payne's Grey. I'm going to start off with a fairly weak wash because I can always drop a bit more colour into one area if I decide to. So a nice weak wash of whatever colour you're using. And I'm just putting it into the sky. Remembering to put it in the middle or not close to the edge of your wetness. And then we do the sea and remember about the boat and the buoy. So I'm happy with that. It's darker in places, it's lighter in places, there's bits of white coming through. That's grand. And I'm now just going to darken up one side slightly, just drop in a bit of the colour, as you can see. Probably going for a storm again, because I quite like storms. And the sea would reflect that darkness too. So that is probably it. And I would let that dry now for a few minutes. Go on. Right, so we're dry. I'm going to get my rigger, which is the only one I've got, and get some red paint. Start off light. You can always go in afterwards. And I'm going to just drop my red paint around that side of the boat. Now, I know that there's wax in there, so I shouldn't be surprised. And then I'm just going to pull that colour through the rest of the boat. And it's got to be a clean, damp brush to pull that. The sun, sun always comes from the right on my paintings. So the front of the boat will be the lightest and the back of the boat will be the darkest, which is where I placed the paint and then dragged it towards the front of the boat, which I believe is called the bow. I just want that just a wee bit darker on the back there, so I just drop in a little bit more of the paint. and then just drag it along. So that's one bit of it done. I'm going to do the back of the boat here, across the back. I'm going to turn my paper because I find it quite difficult to paint not turned. So I'm just going to use the rigger and draw a line across the back of the boat. And then with the clean, only damp brush, just pull it down. And also for that, just dip into a bit of your Payne's grey or your indigo or whatever. Because it's the inside of the boat we're showing, I've just dropped a bit of the dark colour on top of it so that it shows that that's inside it. And then we've got more of the inside of the boat, but we'll leave that until the other bit's dry. I don't want it to bleed into the red of the front of the boat. So mine looks more grey than red at the moment, but that's fine. They've painted the inside of the boat grey. We've got another little bit of the real boat and not the reflection to do here, this side. So I get the red, just draw in, just paint in the outline. Clean water on your rigger and just pull it in towards that water line. Now I've got a lot of water on there, it's glistening. So I'm going to soak it up with my other brush, which is going to be clean and just damp or thirsty. I put my brush tip in and it soaks it up. We can always darken this down afterwards when we've seen what we've got. Whilst the boat dries, I'm going to do the mast, and this is the ideal point for a 00 rigger. I can see my pencil line, and we're going to very, very carefully, with a steady hand and in one swoop, hopefully, draw in this mast. So it comes from the middle of the boat and it goes up, 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 up. So you need to make sure that you've got enough paint and water on your brush, but if you need 2 goes at it, it doesn't matter. It's a thin blue line, as is mine. And I'm also going to do this rigging line here, which needs to be equally as thin, if not thinner. I can still see my pencil line, so that comes from the front of the boat and up, not all the way to the top. I can be really brave and do the other one. I've turned the paper so that I'm not putting my hand on this beautifully drawn line that I've just done. So I'm going from the mast to the outside of the sail. And then there's one more on there, and that's from the where the sail is down to the side of the boat. And also we need one line across the bottom of the rolled up sail. Because that's what it's rolled up to. Oh, there's another one. The rope out to the buoy. If your boat is dry, you can do the rope.
Susan, I'm sorry about that. Are they done with, what colour are you using with that? Is that?
I'm going to paint the buoy, same colour as my boat. I've got the red on the rigger, so I'm just going to draw a circle. Well, it's not a circle. Draw a piece that shape, sort of a skew with C. Then with a clean, damp brush, pull in the paint for the rest of it. Remember that the light side is the, or mine anyway, is the where the sun is. And I put a little bit of wax on it, so the wax is showing up, and so that it looks as if it's glistening in the sunlight. So we're now going to, once we've done that, we're going to attempt the shadows on the boat. Oh, we've also got to do the inside. So with a little bit of red, I'm going to paint the inside with a little bit of red, she says, and she's got. So the mast goes in front of this red. And then I'm cleaning the brush, and with a clean, actually looks a fairly damp brush, I am bringing that paint down from the rim. And I'm just going to soak a bit up because it is. I've tried to leave a bit of a gap between this area I've just painted and the boat, just a bit of white, so it doesn't bleed into each other, and it also looks like it's got a white painted top. So that's just the inside, and just a tiniest bit of grey just to make it look a bit darker inside. Tiny bit of grey on your rigger, just jiggle it about in there, and then it's darker. Right, for the buoy. With some just water on your brush on the buoy, just paint with water. Most of the water on the left-hand side, some on the right. And a very weak wash of red, just drop the red in. So that the paint doesn't actually cover it all. Mine's got little dots of white in it because it's just sitting in the water, and it will dry like that. I don't know whether you can see. No. Oh, now I've made it go. Hang on. So I've darkened up that buoy, and I have made it look a bit reflection-y there, and I'm going to do the reflection of the boat. I'm going to do it exactly the same way by painting water onto where we've drawn the reflection of the boat. I'm not covering it completely in water. I'm covering a bit of the sea there. Damn. I'm doing it in lines. You can't see it. It's sort of, I can see it shining. Now, just get a little bit of the red and drop it in. It's darker towards the left side. So it's sort of wateriness. It's not a solid shape in the water. I've not put wax on there at all, on that things, but by doing the water in random, you can get some lines or some spaces, white spaces. I want a little bit darker line at the bottom of the boat, so I'm just dropping a bit more of the red in. I'm only just dotting it in. And then that will bleed into the water that's the paint that's already there. And I'm just darkening that edge of the boat up there. And there's that bit on the bow, on the actual boat that joins at the front. And so I'm just going to recreate that there. And it will all bleed away and it won't look as if it's there, but it was there. And we're going to put in these seagulls. So light mix of the blue. So blob in the middle, petal, wing. Where's another one? Blob in the middle, petal. They're not really petals. Wing. And one down here. Blob in the middle. Petal. Wing. And I've got just some ordinary bird shapes up here. So your small rigger, your double O, it would be a good one to have. These are far away and you can't see the detail on these. That's it. I think we're done with that. Go. Okay, so a large brush. We're going to do sky down to 2/3, and then with the mouse and looking up at the grass. So clean water on my brush. I'm going to wet the paper. I've just gone over the sun and I didn't really want to, so I'm going to just blot that out. There. So my paper is now glistening. and I shall be putting some paint in. So the first ones I'm going to do is the blue. And I'm just going to drop in my blue. I'm doing this one on a slant. Drop the clouds in there. And then move on to some yellow. She said, where's my yellow gone? There it is. And just dotting some yellow in. Helping it to run just a little bit, but try not to push it into the blue paint. Otherwise you'll get a lovely shade of green sky. But you can drop some yellow into the blue and just leave it. The yellow should be either side of the sun. So I'm just going to go round that, just gently. I'm only just touching the paper with my paintbrush on the side, just gently. I need a little bit of orange. Doesn't matter which orange, I'm using the transparent orange. And again, I'm just coming up the page and just dropping a little bit of that orange into the bottom of the yellow. And then the last bit of it is back to the blue and just coming up the page gently. It's all at a slope, mine. So it's in bands. And then whilst the orange is still wet, with a clean but damp brush, I'm going to pour some of that orange across the sun. Need just perhaps a little bit more on my, those clouds that you get at the end of the day, the horizontal clouds that go across the sun, when you can see the sun, that is. And then, to my utter horror, I've noticed that we have got hard edges. I'm just using a tissue, and I wipe my brush on the tissue, and I just blend them in, wiping the brush with each. Pick that up and let that move. I'm going to drop a little bit more of the blue in at the top there. It's got plenty of room to move because there's still damp paper up there. And a little bit more in at the bottom, in the middle of the dampness, so that it can spread. It will continue to bleed on for quite some time, particularly if we don't use a hairdryer, because that stops the bleeding process because it dries it too quickly. Okay, so it's all dry. River. lot of rigger work on this one, faffing. I'm using, guess what, Payne's Grey for my grasses. So I want a nice mixture of about coffee strength, which is not wishy-washy like tea strength, but sort of, you can't really see. Well, you can't even see. And I've got 4 I've drawn in. Really, I should have more than that. I should have 5 or 3. 5s and 3s. And I come from the bottom. Of where the grasses are and across. And that's number 1 in, well, the beginning of it. I'm going to have a bendy one coming from here to about there. So just, oh, I'm on delay. Okay, right. So that's 2. More water, more paint. I'm going to go up there and bend that up there.
Excuse me, Susan, I hate to be a pain, but I can't help it. I'm just wondering.
So I'm going to have 5 grasses, and I've got 3 in. I'm going to have 1 that sort of down there. That's better. Oh, I have got 5. I didn't see the. Oh, there was 5. 1 there, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1 crossing over and going off up there. Right, that's just those stalks. We'll let those dry, and whilst we're doing that, I'll put in the grass. I'm going to use a bit of, I've got some sepia somewhere, dark brown. So I'm going to make a, with a rigger, plenty of paint, and do the rigger flick. So you put it on the paper and you go whoosh, whoosh, she says. Not enough water. Whoosh. This rigger is going to die. Come on. That's it. So we're just flicking grass in. So I'm going to do some in the brown, and then I'm going to go and find my burnt sienna or any red and just flick some red ones in. And maybe I use a bit of purple and just put some purple ones in. And let's go mad. And I've got some green. And some green. It's not realism, so it doesn't. And then I'm going to put a, yeah, that's it for grass. And to get my pointed mop brush, and I'm going to run with clean water, run my brush along the bottom. The bottom of those grasses will bleed into it. And you've then got ground on which it all sits. So the brown's bleeding in and the green's bleeding in, it all. Right, so we're dry. We're going to do the grass leaves. We're into the rigger flick again. I'm going to do it on the side because I find it easier. So I've turned my paper slightly and we're putting leaves on. So I'm putting my brush at where the leaf joins the stem and flicking, just flicking. So decide how many sets of leaves you're going to have. I can only flick that way with that one, and then I have to turn it back the other way. And the right hand flick is a lot less effective than the left hand, I find. So that's it really. Or perhaps do some down there. So we're going to put leaves on all of that, all of those long stems, exactly the same way. You can make them a bit more bushy if you wish. It's your painting, your leaves. I'm just doing left side leaves and then right side leaves. My leaves are staggered, but you can do them any way you want. You've got to decide which stalk goes over which on that one. Otherwise, it'll be confusing. So that's my second one. I've got one to do here. So flick my leaves on. A bit of flickage. So I press quite heavy to start off with and then ease up. So it's heavy flick, lean on it a bit, flick, lean, flick. Right, where are we going now? Oh, there, this one, flick, flick. Right, one more to do. I think this one. So it's sort of the base of it is thicker than the top of the leaf. If you had a lot of grasses, you'd get to do it quicker. Right, so your dark colour, whatever you chose, and choose one to start off with. I'm going to have this one, and I'll put my paper on the side, almost upside down, and I'm going to flick So I start at the line that I've drawn round and flick it down. And you can go overboard a bit with this if you wish, just so that you've got a nice, interesting grass head at the top of your grass. Now the wind is always going to be blowing in the one direction at one time, so you better have them all going the same way. Right, I'm going to do this one, and this one, as you can see, my paper is nearly upside down again. So I'm drawing the curve round and then putting my brush on that line and flicking it down. I'm going to make these a little bit longer because I exaggerate them a bit. Right, that's 2. Number 3. That's the ends here. So I'm going to draw the curve and then flick the rigger down off of the curve. So that one is in front of that one. Where's this one? Oh, here. I'm going to extend this one because it's too close to the other one. So I'm going to go up a bit with it and then make the curve. And then make the grass shapes. And I've got one more to do, which is this one over here. Make the curve. I've made these a bit longer and a bit hairier. A bit fuller, I think is. That's it, I've got 5. And because I extended that, I'm going to put another couple of leaves on them. And that's that for the grass heads.